the Baltimore Orioles are one of the best teams in baseball despite their problems. Now, they are going to have to go make moves. And guys, maybe this leads into the factor crap for today. We meant to talk about this last show, but it's even more evident now. Factor crap. For the Baltimore Orioles to win the World Series, they must go out and get a top line starter if they want to win their first World Series since 1983. Anyone like to start?
Yeah. When we say top line starter, we talking like, I'm just gonna say crap anyway. No, if they don't need a top line starter, that would be cool. Like, I'm sure that wouldn't hurt, but I'm actually looking at his stuff right now. I'm kind of maybe all in on Eric Fetti. I think that would be an interesting, like, lower. I think they're going to make a move, obviously, for a pitcher, but I don't think it's going to be, especially a starter. I don't see them going out and getting that Garrett Crochet, Jesus Luzardo, that type of like, oh, you're going to get a number one. I don't see that happening. Eric Fetti, he looks like a guy who he's on a 2-year deal, so he's got one more year. He's 31 years old, 3.09 ERA. He's pitching really well for the White Sox, and everyone's got their eye on Garrett Crochet there, obviously. Would cost a hell of a lot less to get and would be a great guy to go in that like 4 or 5 spot instead of being like, hey, let's go get Crochet or Luzardo, where we're now sending them up to a BR 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Eric Fetty's a name that I would circle with a lot of people because, and also Eric Fetti, roomed with him down in when he was rehabbing. He just got drafted by the Nationals. Him and I were down in Melbourne, Florida. We roomed together down there. He's a great guy, awesome dude, and he found himself again going over to play in Korea. And there was actually a sit down where Fetti talked about finding that dog in him, that bulldog in him again. And he's been that type of bulldog, especially this year. And it's a guy that more than likely, Zach, is not going to be maybe costing this gigantic asking price. And I think that's the part where that would be very interesting. Before we dive further, Brad, do you have an opinion on this fact or crap?
I'm going fact. Okay. The only reason I say that is because of how the playoffs were last year, and I know it's a completely different year, but when we had guys that we thought were top tier or were pitching well, and how that all went down. I'm not saying that the Orioles can't win a World Series if nothing really changes, or if we go out and get some sort of middle tier starter, but there is a need for a starter in that rotation. It's June. I think that there's still a high possibility that there's another injured pitcher out there. I don't want it to see it be Grayson, but we've already seen an injury scare with Grayson Rodriguez. So I think that we do. I don't think that it's really necessarily crap at all. I think if it's not really the level of talent that's currently on the roster, it's what happens when another pitcher gets injured.
And it is a fascinating conversation, right? And I understand your point completely, Brad, because you were looking for that of what does happen if one of your top 2 guys goes down. Do you feel comfortable that that's enough to win a World Series? And Tim Kirchin was right. And I guess, though, also, guys, I don't know ball either. I haven't been around long enough or haven't seen it. But hasn't the thing I said, let's get to July. Let's get towards the deadline to then really see, because that's what teams are looking at. And for me, I will say it's crap that the Orioles need to go and get a top end, just because, like we said, maybe it's a loaded question of who is fully top end. It's really going to be what is the asking price. So when I look at certain guys who are pitching really well, I don't think anyone last year was considering Jordan Montgomery top end, but he was really solid. But then he played himself into being a phenomenal addition for the Texas Rangers. He was a better addition than the top end guy that was Max Scherzer, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here. So that's where I go with this. Now, I would think another conversation that the Orioles having another bullpen arm would just be as valuable, because I think that their depth, they are just depleted. I don't know how much they have on that back end. And as like I said, I love Craig Kimbrell. I love all of his talent. I think it does help having another guy, especially with Danny Coulomb out, that you trust late in games. And I think that is something that they're going to have to look at as a whole. And Brad, one other name that continues to be thrown out, and I've seen people talk about it, and he's free. Who has everyone been asking about for the last X amount of time?
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer. And so let me talk about this for a second. Tim mentioned it earlier on the show, so you guys can go back and hear Tim's opinion. Trevor Bauer is not a fit for Baltimore. I know that everyone you can look at saying the legal situation, or he was cleared of wrongdoing, everything's happened. Why not give him a chance? Well, whatever you want to feel about it, it had an impact, and it had an impression on Major League Baseball and outside of Major League Baseball. So if you're a Major League Baseball team, because this is where the question's specifically alluding to, is what team would want to take on a risk of bringing a player in that, yes, could help them on the field, but could stir up so much controversy off of it? A polarizing figure. And then the next part is, will he fit the culture that you are building? And the one thing I'll say, the culture in Baltimore is pristine right now. It is incredible. You can hear comments. I think Scott Boras even alluded to recently that his clients really are enjoying the Orioles winning atmosphere. And it's the culture of guys that they bring in. I don't think that's a fit for that. Again, I don't know Trevor Bauer personally. I just am going off of what I think for this team that culturally does not fit. It is not worth the risk for the Baltimore Orioles to invest in a player where you don't know how things are going to go at the big league level, and you're bringing a baggage that is way bigger than the game to an organization that is one of the brightest spots in all of baseball. So that's what I think. And quite frankly, I think Tim's right, guys. I don't think we see Trevor Bauer pitch again in Major League Baseball.
I don't either.
I really do think that. But again, culture is a real thing. Chemistry is a real thing that I think people kind of diminish, Brad.
Yeah, I was actually not to change the subject too much, but I was actually just looking. It's so funny. Jack Flaherty obviously was on the Orioles last year, having a great year. I'm not sure that there would have to be much to give up to get a quality arm like that. And you can refute this if you think I'm wrong on it, but it's pitching 3.01 ERA. I mean, I think Jack Flaherty could be a potential target for the O's this year without having to give up too much.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. No chance. No chance. We already thought I fell for the first start back in Baltimore when he hit 97 for the first time in 2 years, and he went and dominated the Blue Jays, and we were like, oh man, this is the next ace of the team. And then it was just a disaster. I just don't think they go back to, and I've made jokes about it on Twitter of like Jack Flaherty, the Orioles reacquiring Jack Flaherty at the deadline is going to be a movie. Like, I say it as a joke, but like, I just don't think Elias and them go back to that well.
Well, and especially it feels like, things, not saying it was soured, but they had a chance to bring him back if they wanted to, and they chose not to, and I think Jack's having a great year. I told you guys this, you take chances on talent, and man, do I miss Fuji. I know that's just that's the one,
too.
You know what?
So much.
I do. I miss Fuji. I miss Orioles fans blowing up my social media saying how that Fuji's giving them high blood pressure on a day-to-day night. But damn it, did I love the talent. But that's the reason why you took a chance on a guy like Fujinami and Jack Flaherty. Now, it hasn't panned out for Fuji. And again, I'll admit, it hasn't gone well for it. Do I still love the guy? Yes. If that's the one that you can say that I've actually been off on as a player, I bought the talent, sure. But Jack Flaherty, guys, there's a reason why you did. The Orioles bought on him at the deadline. He's a very talented pitcher, very talented, and he's starting to progress. And just like we talked about Eric Fetti earlier, or guys that are finding their groove later in their careers, pitching's so much different now. You don't have to hit the gates running. And also we see it with the Orioles lineup. Ryan O'Hearn is one of the best hitters on one of the best teams. Like people, it's just when you find that is the most important. But Orioles fans, we can then holster this conversation for later as we get closer to what's going to be happening in the trade deadline.
This is where I'm at, Rod. This is where I'm at. I agree 100%. I get to fool me once, but I don't think we had the full Jack Flaherty experience. I
agree. That's just Zach. That's just Zach's hurt as a fan. That's all.
No, I think you nailed it, Rip. They had an opportunity to bring him back and they didn't. I don't think they even offered him. So I just don't. Congrats to him. Go kill it in Detroit. I will watch from afar.
What if he gets traded to the Yankees and I wouldn't like that.
He could be solely because he's already got the clean shaven look. You know, he wouldn't have to adjust anything.
Have you ever seen the other guys?
Yeah.
So you know Hal, right?
No.
You know, and he just does shaved. You know that scene right there? You probably think because of the beard that I'm really hairy, but I'm not. Shaved.
God, that was such a good movie.
You come back and make love to my wife. What a film.
You get back here.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Hey, Spirit Bomb. We should bring back Spence Watt. You know what? Depth piece wise, Wattie's down in AAA, I believe, still with Rochester, unless he got caught up and I missed it. But also Spencer Watkins, friend of Ryan Ripken, teammate, and I definitely know would be a friend of the program. First guy I actually did an off script with Rip episode. So Spence, like I see the Orioles doing moves like this. I think they're going to look at depth. And don't forget about Chase McDermott and Cade Povich, guys. I mean, the walks were, we didn't even talk about that, but Cade Povich walked 5 guys. I thought he pitched solidly, but the walks, he can't walk 5 guys in the future and get away with how he did. But the point being proven, they had 1 hit against him. One hit. He threw a 2-0 heater down the middle to Juan Soto. 91 O's up 3. Hey, right down the dick, Juan. Here you go. And he swings and misses. Threw it.
The stat line for Cade Povich is it's just hilarious to me. It's just hilarious. 4 walks and he had like a ton of pitches early. Really racked up his pitch count. And you would look at everything and think, man, he done lost this game. But he really didn't. And it was just unbelievable. But I think there was something that we talked about with Trevor Hoffman earlier this afternoon, Rip, and it was that, that deception piece. I actually wonder if there's going to be more players, particularly pitchers, that kind of try to perfect that deception or hiding the ball at the last minute to save their arms, to kind of save having to throw it at 97 to 100 miles an hour in order to I guess, affirm to themselves that that's the only way that you're going to be successful is if you just throw hard. That while there is something to be said for that, being able to be deceptive while also saving your arm, I think there's something to be said for that too.
Yeah, I think that also, I've been asked before about why wouldn't you want to throw harder? It's, well, everyone wants to, but then at what cost is it going to be? If your body is not used to doing it, you're going to put more stress on it over time. The other part is for a guy like Cade, if Cade were to throw 95 to 97, would him throwing harder now change his mechanics, which would then change some of his deception? That's the question that you're going to have here. Max Fried, that's why the comp for him, they're both tall, lanky guys that are left-handed pitchers that have that type of deception. Fried throws a little bit harder, but you're seeing it. It's a reminder. And actually, that's why I love talking with Trevor Hoffman too, Brad. And that's coming out here soon for HS&P members, that you got to know how to pitch. I think Cade knows how to pitch. He's just got to limit his walks, because what he's doing he just went against the New York Yankees in the Bronx. You had to face the Toronto Blue Jays, which is a team that they don't lack talent. They've just been inconsistent. And then an Atlanta Braves team that has a lot of talent. So, and he showed that he can definitely handle. In each of those games, they didn't have hard contact besides Vlad Guerrero. So appreciate it. And Rod, yes.
I'll say, if Jack Flaherty comes back and wins the World Series, I will wear a Jack Flaherty jersey. I loved the guy when we got him. I was just disappointed. Yeah,
you sound more hurt than.
Yeah, I thought he was, after the game in Toronto, there was a nice moment he had with his mother. It was like, oh, everything is so good here. Like, he's going to be a star. And then the issue is last year, I was one of the final people on the Jack Flaherty bandwagon. I was one of those ones that was like, no, he's going to figure it out. Like, no, he's going to figure it out. And it just never got to the figured out part. So
we never got off the Fuji bandwagon. We rode that bitch until the wheels fell off.
I still am riding it. And even though
he's pitching, he's throwing bullpens. He's back throwing bullpens for the Mets. So
boom, baby. And again, I told you guys that, you know, and I'll admit if I'm wrong about it. And hey, you know, I might have been wrong about Fuji. Haven't been wrong about a lot of other things. But if I was wrong about Fuji, vibes he has that you can't take that away from that man. He has
so good.
the vibes for sure.